Hi, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is your August 2020 reading. I'm sorry that these are late and they're coming out piecemeal, but as you guys know, I'm running my August reading special. You want to know more about it? Click on the eye that'll show up over here, and that'll take you directly over to the website. I can't talk with no teeth, it's terrible. And so, when you get there to the website, if you're interested, go to Tarot Consultations. On the main menu, there's a little arrow next to that. Click that arrow, and there's a pull down menu, and the August reading special should be the first item at the top. This is half off of a 1 hour reading. So if you've never had a reading with me, or you'd like to get a reading with me, this is your opportunity to do it for half price. That's going to be going on until August 19th, and then poof, it's going to be gone. So, I have already done some meditation and shuffling on your sign. I'm using the Radiant White deck. We'll be clarifying with Levita Sibila. And I don't know what oracle card I'm going to be pulling. I know for the Aquarius, I had to pull 3 cards because I don't know what was going on there. So we shall see what the cards have to say. I still haven't figured out how to stop this fancy machine from shutting off when I'm recording. So if it shuts off, don't worry. I'll come right back and we'll pick right up, okay? So I'm going to turn the computer around and adjust it so that you are able to see it. There we go. And I'm going to put a bit more of a shuffle on this. Oh, while I'm doing this, let me correct something for you. I think in the 2 August reading special update, the quick little videos that I posted, I told you that there was going to be an eclipse. These are not eclipses, the new moon, the full moon and the new moon of this month. What they are doing is they are touching over the same points of the Great American Eclipse that happened back on August 21st, 2018. So think back to 2018, what you were doing, what was happening for you. The eclipse occurred in the sign, the eclipses occurred in the sign of Leo. And they always come in pairs, eclipses do. We'll have some new eclipses coming up pretty soon. I'm not exactly sure. Website members, I'll write you an article on that. I hope you guys have been checking in and reading up on when Saturn met Pluto, about the United States and Donald Trump and the whole environment and thing that's happening, and also read the article on the astrology of pandemics, okay, because I think that's important as well. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the reading. 9 cards down. King of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, wow, 4 of Swords. So already I have 2 court cards here, okay? So this tells me there are at least 2 people here. 3 of Swords, wow. Ace of Cups, wow, that's a weird ass energy, okay. 8 of Wands. 3 of Pentacles, so now I have 2 3s. That's important. Page of Swords. Hmm. 5 of Swords. Well, that's a lot of damn swords. But you know what's interesting? Even though they're kind of out of sequence, I have the 3, the 4, the 5, and then the page. Now, 2 3s could mean that there are at least 3 people or more in the situation. And this is a confirmation because I have 3 court cards. I have 3 people in this card. And I have 3 people in that card. So there are at least 3 people involved in this situation, okay? The next thing, the number 3, can simply mean a time of suspended events. In other words, there's something else that's going to need to occur before this will move forward, okay? Now, if you notice, I have absolutely no major arcana cards. So this is all on a kind of third dimensional mundane level. So there are no big spiritual lessons here. This just looks like something you're going to have to, that's going to happen, or you're going to have to deal with, or maybe you know somebody. I don't know. So, the second thing you need to understand is, even though that this is a reading for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, um, I have a Fire King and a Earth Queen. Just because they don't show up as water signs does not mean that this reading does not apply to you. Okay, you can check back to your moon and your rising sign, because that may hold more information. But basically, when cards show up like this of a different suit, this tells me, the way I interpret these things is the personality type, or the personal characteristics of the person. For instance, the King of Wands can be somebody who's fair complected and may have red hair, blue eyes. The Queen of Coins could be somebody who is dark complected with dark hair and dark eyes. As a not necessarily a job, but as in terms of the energy of this particular King of Wands, this would be somebody, fire sign could be, if not a fire sign, not could be, if not a fire sign, which would be Aries, Leo, and or Sagittarius. Then what this is telling me is that this is somebody who may be a boss, who's the kind of person who has lots of ideas but likes to delegate. They're not very good at actually doing things, so they like to tell people what to do. They're outgoing, they're generous, can be flashy, capture a lot of attention, a lot of fun to hang around, but could also be someone who's quite changeable in nature. See that? Runs hot and runs cold. Can be very impatient, can be quite demanding and controlling. This would be somebody who is rather grounded, may run a business, own a business, work in finance, can be a banker, an accountant, even run their own business. Someone who cares about the environment, takes care of animals, gardens, loves, and is involved in all types of environmental issues. Somebody that you can definitely count on, who gives very good advice. The negative of this is the person can be stuck, can be stingy, and can be quite greedy and ruthless. So, it just depends. So if this is not showing up necessarily as your sign, which is Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, these are the characteristics. We'll look at that a bit more. The Page of Swords is an air sign individual, typically younger, somebody who's going to be, let's say, under the age of, I'm going to say maybe 35, all the way down to, a kid. Would be air sign, would be Gemini, Libra, and or Aquarius. This page is a student of, all pages are students. They learn things and then they do things. They pass things on. This one is a student of communication. He sometimes can be somebody who is not afraid to get to the truth through communicating. But this person can also be very, very nasty. What I can tell you about pages is that they always, always, always bring news. And because it's the swords, it can be a double-edged message, okay? So, let's take a look to see if, I'm just going to look at this Ace of Cups to see if it tells me anything being next to, oh. Ace of Cups with swords appearing on all sides indicates unsettled conditions in the home environment and that things within the family may be strained at this time. That's it. Doesn't tell me anything else. Okay? I have no major arcana cards to gauge that against. What is under the deck? The Five of Pentacles. Well, that kind of says volumes. Okay? Now, right in the center is this Ace of Cups. And the Ace of Cups traditionally is looked at as the new love card. Okay? Well, I think that kind of limits the meaning of the card. To me, the way that I interpret any ace is, yes, it is an opportunity, but not just an opportunity for love. It is an opportunity for a fresh emotional start or beginning. It can sometimes even indicate a catharsis, the release of emotions. See the water coming out of the cup, that's like tears. So you're being given an opportunity to reset something emotionally. Does that make any sense? And as a matter of fact, that's the only cup card that I have in the deck. And so this tells me that this is something big, this is something major because it's an ace. Aces are always the excessive degree of anything. The key to harnessing aces is to um, be ready to embrace whatever changes or opportunities come towards you. You got to be ready mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Okay? Otherwise, you may miss the opportunity. Um, Sometimes, even that idea of catharsis, of unloading a bunch of negative or sad or depressing emotions, or even anger, um, resets things for you so that you can begin again afresh and anew. Oh, I didn't give you the two threes. That's what I was trying to do. Now, two threes, and I'm going to give you two meanings. Two threes can mean one of you is craving more excitement and change. And two threes also represent, one second, it says unexpected good luck. Well, I'm sorry. Two threes, the second meaning of two threes is a small but pleasant surprise. But this surprise brings some conflict with it. Okay? Now, sometimes this card can be that somebody's acting in a selfish way. Okay? This card is always a card of victory, and it says that in order to move through this particular conflict, and that's what fives are. Fives represent changes, ups and downs, unsettled conditions. These changes are typically fraught with tension, anxiety, arguments, conflict. So sometimes this card is about standing up for yourself in a dispute, but it also warns to be careful in doing that because two parties can get to warring, people can get to warring, and they'll sink to any level to win. So there's a caution. There's a positive and a negative to every card. What I think I find most interesting is that there's this weird kind of, I'm going to rest and take it easy and think it over. This can literally be somebody disappearing from the scene. That's an effigy. That's not even a real person laying there. That's an effigy. And this can be the idea that you need to take some time out to determine what's the best course of action. Swords always represent thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, ideas, and communications. Wands represent the idea of the passion behind it, the determination, the focus, the drive. The coins represent simply this idea of not only finances, but what's doing. What are you doing? How are you doing it? It's over the whole reading, we have this sense, this Five of Pentacles of, yes, there could be some strange financial times. Everybody's kind of going through these weird times where everything in life is having to be reshuffled. So the Five of Pentacles can be that idea of financial problems, losses, worries, the fear of bankruptcy, the fear of not having enough. But it can also represent this idea of feeling sorry for yourself, feeling as though you've been left out in the cold. But while you are doing that, remember the coins do, it's also telling you that you're walking right by a situation where you may be able to find at least some respite and relief. And maybe that's what this card is telling you. It's definitely the two of you together in this situation. So I don't know if this is a business deal. It's definitely some kind of partnership, but there's a third party here. And I don't know how this third party is affecting the relationship. There's definitely a indirect effect, but I'm not quite sure exactly what's happening. Now, the Three of Swords is an interesting card because it does imply heartache. It does imply some sorrow. Sometimes it can imply bitterness. But the thing about the Three of Swords is there's a sense of vision with this card, because even in heartache and sorrow, there is a silver lining. Maybe when you're going through the shit, you don't see that, but eventually, when you come out of the other side, there's a silver lining here. This happens rapidly. Now, the Eight of Wands is always speaking about the idea of something happening quite quickly. We don't know exactly where these arrows are coming from, or what they're particularly aimed at. So typically, this will mean messages from abroad. If not abroad, like literally from another country, this could be from afar, like from the other side of the country, maybe even the other side of the state. But typically, it's always going to say that the messages come from far away. It also represents travel to long distance travel to places. If not abroad, then across country, maybe across the state, something like that. Whatever it is, it always tells you to hold on because things are about to start moving very, very quickly. So if I'm going to read it just like I'm reading a book, we see that there's something comes in. I don't know if it's coming from this king or not, but there's some message or some travel or some news that's coming in, and there's this idea of two people going together to get their plans together. So as I was saying, I don't know if this is coming from this particular king or not, but most definitely what it tells me is there's either some travel or some news associated with going somewhere to build some plans. This is about the cornerstone, the foundation, building something new. As you can see, there's two people there with plans in their hands, but they're going to speak to someone who has more skill and more knowledge. The artisan there is up on a bench. Being lifted up like that implies that he has a bit more skill and a bit more knowledge, okay? But he's also resting. That's another thing. Benches offer rest. So this is the building of some kind of new third dimensional thing, whether it's a work project, whether it is a personal relationship, whether it is a contractual. And I don't get that this is necessarily a contractual issue, although it could be. So here comes the page. The page brings in some news and some message, and it's definitely about this. You see how he's looking at it? Okay? And what that does is it creates a conflict, a fight. You see, those two people are walking away. Okay? The 4, the 3, and the 5. With this 4 to the 3, we subtract an ace, and the page is holding the ace. From the 4 to the 5, we add an ace. From the 3 to the 5, it gives me 2 swords. These are the 2 swords that are being held. And the 2 of swords always represent some kind of opposition or crossroads. I can't really tell you what this is about. But I think what else is interesting is that this is a 3 of swords here with 1 at rest. So I get the sense that some kind of disappointment or sorrow, maybe even regret, is going to crop up or is associated with this. And again, it leads to some type of conflict or change. This change, whatever it is, won't be easy. It's also coming quickly. If this is the idea where maybe you've been ill and you've not been feeling well, because sometimes this card says that. The 8 of Wands tells me that you're going to get back up in rapid time, or have to at least, because there's a conflict coming. So what I'm going to do, first thing I want to look at, because it's just sitting right in the center here, is this Ace of Cups. This opportunity, this fresh emotional start, this catharsis, this excessive degree of anything, this opportunity that comes after this painful thing that has happened, painful words that have been said. I've seen this card show up, the 4 of Swords, when it speaks to people having some arguments or disagreements about something, and somebody takes a step back, and literally like they disappear from the scene. Okay? You haven't heard from them. The casa. Well, there's the home. So remember, the 2 3s can What was I reading? The thing that said they can speak to unsettled conditions. The Ace of Cups next to the something. I don't remember what the hell it was, but y'all remember I read it at the beginning. The Lamika. And that's interesting. And the Melancholia. Reason why I say this is interesting, this person can be yourself. You can be somebody who's, relatively well to do, financially stable. But she can also be a daughter, a colleague, a friend. Most likely, it tends to be sometimes a colleague. If it is a friend, however, it can sometimes represent her home. She offers some type of assistance, whether she introduces you to somebody or offers you some kind of financial assistance or lets you makes her home available to you. Now, what I find to be interesting about the Kaza is a card that not only does represent an actual building, but this also kind of looks like an official building. So sometimes it can show up like banks or institutions. The other thing about the Kaza card is it talks about what a home means. Homes usually provide security, safety, it's your sanctuary. But it can also speak to what goes on behind closed doors. So this could be the idea of keeping something locked away emotionally that you're not letting anybody see. Maybe it comes to light. Maybe it comes to light through a friend. But there is, again, some sadness and regret here. Okay? This card. This card is about lamenting how things used to be. Yeah? I'm going to take a look at this Three of Coins here. And then I'm going to look at this Five of Swords. Well, I think the Five of Swords is pretty explanatory, and it's an outgoing energy. You see it's a page and a five. That gives me Six of Swords. Now, Six of Swords is the idea of moving from troubled waters to smoother waters. But it can sometimes portend a sudden parting and abrupt parting of ways. Separations, divorces, okay? Three of Pentacles. The viaggio, the trip, or the visit. Remember I said that. The Gran Signore. There's our King of Cups, our Water King. I'm thinking this is this guy. And what this is telling me is that if he's not an actual Water King, this is somebody who's important in your life. Okay? Somebody that who's important. And the Mercante. So this is, I don't know if this is about a separation. Like, say, for instance, this guy had to leave and go on a business deal. Yeah? And maybe this is where the sadness and the heartache is because you missed the person. Okay. Sometimes the cards don't give you messages that are as, I don't know, all esoteric and up in the clouds where you don't understand it. Sometimes they can just be really at ground level. And this is what this is speaking. We see this Mercante here, someone who makes business deals. He is the King of Coins. The Gran Signore is typically somebody who is wealthy, but so is the Mercante. The Gran Signore owns a lot of things. He's the big man about town. He's got a great reputation. Maybe he sits on a lot of boards. The Mercante is wealthy because not because he was born with it, but because he's got good business acumen, right? Five of Swords. No, the Page of Swords, because that's the message that brings this. So let's see. The Gran Consolazione. There's the news, the message. So there's some kind of success here. Fame, achievement. This is all kinds of good things. Everything you've hoped and dreamed and wished for. The message comes in. Remember, I told you pages always send messages. This just says that whatever the message is that's coming in, it's going to be specific. It's not going to be some generic news. It's going to be some specific news that has to do with you that could change your life in some way. All right? It's not the letter. and the Costanza, which is a very odd card to come out. But the Costanza is the card of perseverance. It says that no matter what's going on, no matter how negative the situation is, don't give up because things will be changing. It's a card of strength. So now the question becomes, what is this? Yeah? So I'm going to have to look at it now because it completes the sentence. It completes the line. So what is the argument? Sometimes the Costanza could be somebody who doesn't want to change. Yeah? Lamante, male. Remember those three people I was telling you about? The desperate jealousy. Isn't that some... Look, I don't ever like to give warnings like this, but I'm going to tell you something. Here with this Five of Swords and this desperate jealousy, this situation has a tendency to become, an opportunity to become extremely volatile and perhaps violent. So I'm putting that out there. Now we have the letter. And the letter is generic news. And what I mean by generic is it can come in the form of a fax, an email, a text message, a phone call, but it could even be something that you hear on the radio or in the news. This is not that. This is something specific that you already know about or you have some involvement with. Whereas this comes in, okay, and it's just news that comes in. So this could literally, within a week, both of these cards are saying within a week, a day, an hour, a minute, a week, okay, that there's some news. Now, I would be remiss in saying that there's also not the possibility of someone trying to harm themselves or commit suicide. Or perhaps they get in a fight and they are injured. And you hear this on the TV or the radio, or somebody comes by your house and tells you, or they text you, or they call you, or they email you. But this is definitely something, okay? Typically, this is the Page of Cups. I'm sorry, the Knight of Cups. So this will usually be some young man. Now, I don't know if this is a third-party triangle situation, but typically this is a pretty decent person, okay? The only thing that kind of throws me off about the card is this card implies this idea of having to wait on something or someone, okay? Maybe they're tired of waiting. I do have this sense that there could be some sort of violence here. Fight, argument, shooting, stabbing, something like that. I'm not trying to scare you, but that's what's coming off of the card. And if you're not directly involved, then it's probably going to be somebody that you know, and you're going to get that news and that message. Now, remember when I said the 2-3 is a small but pleasant surprise? Maybe this is a small but pleasant surprise. Like, you get the message from this guy that, hey, everything is okay, you know, the business deal is going through, he's got that, but then something happens, and it throws up a conflict. Whatever this message or this news is, or these words, it's a conflict. So let me read to you what the what's he called? The Consumed with Jealousy card. It represents depression, dejection, apathy, anguish, and a lack of enthusiasm. It can indicate suicidal tendencies or even the actual act of committing attempted suicide. But it clearly describes a person who lacks the spiritual resources to pull through difficult times and hardships, that no matter how negative they may seem, are going to end at some point. Remember, I said to you, this card indicates not seeing beyond the present moment, or even of being stuck in the past, unable to resolve some problem without finding the necessary inner resources to pull through. It is a card that indicates all forms of self harm, feelings of guilt, shame, and deep regret. It heralds tears and deep worry and many hours spent crying. It is also a card that can point to substance abuse. He's got a bottle lying at his feet there while he's standing by the riverside. It can symbolize the advanced stage, a toxic environment, people who are around you. You may even feel that even though you're surrounded by extremely nice people and that nothing environment in the environment is toxic, however, this always turns out to be false, revealing that those nice people were deeply envious and they have been scheming behind your back to cause you ruin. It indicates treachery, slander, gossip, and envy. It is another card that warns of danger, a danger coming from inside your circle of acquaintances. That's what this is telling me. In love, it indicates extreme jealousy, envy, possessiveness, as well as a selfish love centered around self gratification or social climbing. Love, if it can still be called love, comes with a heavy price to pay. In any kind of relationship, it indicates a lack of trust and a low self respect. Financially, it indicates heavy losses that could very well lead the client to suicide or someone that you know to suicide, as well as heavy debt, insolvency and overspending, and trouble with the law, and a cutthroat work environment. Legally, it can indicate a judgment made against you or someone you know and criminal proceedings. It is a card that warns that you are about to trust someone who will ultimately lead you to your ruin. It heralds scandal, slander, gossip, and backstabbing. That's what that says. Okay? Now, I don't know if it has to do with this loss of money. I don't see any theft here per se. But, let's ask Nostradamus if he can reveal a bit more to us. Because remember I said, this guy is not afraid of getting to the truth, but that truth can be a double-edged sword. That's interesting. Formulate your question for the Golden Nostradamus. And I just think I'm just going to pull this one card because I don't think the Romance Angels or the Angel Answer cards would help in this situation. It is the Anchor. Do not dream of a pie in the sky. You can only fall when flying high. It says, continue along your path and do not veer off the beaten track. Change will not be favorable at this time and you are not ready. You should decide to be cautious and balanced. I don't know what that means, Pisces, but that's your message for August 2020. I hope that helped. And until next time, namaste.